paper now. So we'll do our best to share that with you. And so I'm going to do a screen share. So bear with me. It'll take a minute to get this set up. So this is on D2L, and it probably is going to be very self-explanatory for you. But I wanted to get a little bit of an overview of the assignment because it is maybe something different from what you've actually done in your own classes. I think there are some classes where the iSearch paper has become an alternative to the more traditional research paper. So hopefully that will be useful for you if that's something you've done before. So what you're doing for this assignment is actually drafting and revising an iSearch paper that documents your own research journey about a topic that's pertinent to you and your teaching. It could be something also related to your school or district if you're interested in researching that. But it needs to be something that's more maybe pertinent to you and your professional experiences so that it takes on a practical kind of component. It should also then serve as a story of your personal research and document how you became interested in the topic, what you did to actually research it, what you learned, and what you wonder about that research topic for further research. So that means that the iSearch paper contains these parts in this order, and you'll see a lot of different examples to help you out with that. You'll want an introduction that actually highlights how you got interested in the topic, an actual description of your research journey, your search, the types of research that you explored, what you found, what worked, what didn't, etc. And then what you found out after looking at all that research in relation to your actual topic, and your conclusion, how you're planning to use the information and what you still want to find out. Because this is a journey that doesn't necessarily end during this short 4 weeks. And you'll obviously want to include a bibliography. I'm cool with whatever format works best for you. MLA, APA, etc. But this is meant to be a research journey that focuses in on a topic that's of interest to you. So you can think about how you might use this research to build a variety of projects that would be useful for you. So I've got things that you might think of as the ways that you might use the research in the future. These are certainly not the only way that you could use that research, but there's some ideas. So it may be that you're doing some research because you want to build a writing across the curriculum in your department or school, and then you want to have some kind of scope and sequence. That's up to you. Now, you don't have to have the product at the end of this, but it may be that that's the goal that you have in mind for the research that you're highlighting in your journey. It could be another kind of lesson or unit plan. It could be just something like a pamphlet for a program of interest to you. It's something that's technology driven, a website, Facebook page, blog, etc. Or it could even be something that's more traditional, a research paper, something for a magazine, a newspaper, journal, newsletter, etc. It could also be research for a grant proposal, but it could be anything. So when you're thinking about researching your topic, you want to think about your research journey and how you got there. But, one of the components is how I'm going to use this information and what I still want to find out. So that's where you're going to think about, okay, now how will this information help me build something that might be more traditional, for example. Now, this is, again, an audience that's related to this class, but it's going to depend also on the focus of your research and the possible genre. So you want to make sure that you think about how your research might um, be pertinent for your classroom audience, your district audience, et cetera, depending on your goals for the project. And for this paper, and I'm saying about 1,500 words, you're going to find that's not going to be very difficult to do. And that does include your bibliography. And you can use any kind of format you want for your references. Just make sure you're consistent. There's a really good explanation for this in the content area writing book, which you all have from Textbook Rental. And so I would suggest looking at that. We also have included several examples of iSearch papers on D2L for you. So here's a little bit of stuff that comes from that content area writing book. It's talking about what it is and helping you think about the process of approaching it. So this is meant to be something like a research paper, except you get to choose the topic and you want to make sure it's authentic to you. They suggest in the chapter that if you were an adult researching cars, you might explore Consumer Reports, etc. So you're doing research that's going to be helpful for you to actually determine which car you want to purchase and why. Now, this is also geared towards your classroom, so that might mean then you're going to be looking at topics that are a little bit different from what you might see in your everyday life, but they do want to be pertinent to you. It's written in the first person because this is all about your research journey. It's a story of your personal research, how you became interested, what you did to research, what you learned, what you wondered about exploring next, etc. And it is very useful, I think, because it helps you narrow a topic, devise questions worth answering, helps you plan your research, helps you utilize a variety of resources, helps you judge reliability of sources, including those on websites, and then helps find useful information and recognize bias. So maybe this is something that you can actually implement in your own classes. So the first thing you want to do is to determine your topic. And they highlight different ways of doing that. These are things that you probably are pretty familiar with. Then you want to make sure you identify the audience. That's your second step. And there you can just kind of brainstorm in your blog and other places. I would suggest doing a lot of this in your blog for your research entries, because then you can just kind of put those together to build your iSearch paper. And then you might do some pre-writing to think about, the KWL stuff, what I think I know, what I want to know, what I want to learn. And then you can fill in, obviously, some of those columns later, do some brainstorming. The idea is here is just to write, because these are things where you're gathering your own information that you already know before you start the research process. Then you want to think about maybe some research questions, to think about the best places to look for your research. And there's a bunch of available resources on the library website, which you can actually link to from D2L if you'd like, but you can clearly get to the Booth Library link in multiple ways. I would suggest, because it seems to get a lot of information, is when you're looking for your articles, go through the Google Scholar button. If you are signed into the Booth Library, you can access all the information that's available through Booth, and you can get into lots of different resources through the Google Scholar button. So that might be the best way to go to get your articles. But you can also do some interviews. You can look at books. You can do lots of different things depending on what your topic is. Then for the pre-writing, you can do whatever works best for you. You can do Google Docs and color code. I mean, it is all up to you, but you do maybe want to highlight things in your blog too that would serve as your research blogs, and you can cut and paste those together. Lots of different ways to do it. But again, you want to have these parts in this order: your introduction, your description of the search, what you found out, and your conclusion. And then you revise it with help from your writing group and me. Now, the things that might go wrong if you are implementing this in the classroom come up in content area writing. They talk about the problem that you might have with plagiarism. But you might be able to avoid that more easily if you make it clear to students that if no final paper will be accepted without evidence of having completed all the previous steps, etc. Because this is so process driven. It is a way to help students highlight research journeys without needing to without needing to steal from other students, etc. And there's an example in content area writing, as well as some examples on D2L. So thank you. I hope that was of some help.